At the time of this recording, it is Monday, June the 1st, 2026, and Sony has scheduled a State of Play presentation for tomorrow, Tuesday, June the 2nd, 2026. Now, it's good to always keep your expectations in check, especially when it comes to Sony's State of Plays. It's not been the best generation for these kinds of presentations, because it's not been the best generation for overall game output coming from Sony, but I suppose that goes without saying. Yeah, it's never good to get your hopes up. I want to say the last one was pretty good, right? The last one, we all thought that was a pretty all right one. Okay, sure, but you never really know what they've got cooking. Always got to keep expectations in check, yada yada. However, it's a little bit easier to get excited about this one. For starters, this is their summer presentation. Of course, before we had E3 and all the big companies would make their biggest announcements around here. Now we have Summer Game Fest, so you do still have companies kind of targeting the month of June, like, early June, first half of June for their big presentations, even when they're not necessarily associated with Summer Game Fest. It's still just a good time. It's just a good time of year to reveal games, It's summer, about halfway through the year. It gives you time to reveal stuff to release in the holiday. Oh, yeah. So we already have reason to believe that this will be a pretty okay presentation. But there are a lot of other signs that suggest it could be a pretty big presentation. People have been pointing out that, well, it's going to be decently long, 60 plus minutes, which, could end up being like 62 minutes or something. Even if it were just 60 minutes, that's already a pretty meaty presentation. But another thing, they are apparently airing this presentation in select theaters. I was not aware that this is something Sony apparently occasionally does, is airing their State of Play presentations in theaters, and it's not something they do every single time. They do it only occasionally, I guess, but they're doing it now. They're doing it now. You can watch the State of Play in select theaters, and I mean, again, you can never really get your hopes up about anything, but they're playing it in theaters. It kind of suggests confidence in the material. It suggests that Sony has really got something to show us. And then back to the runtime thing. If they're airing it in theaters, it is easier to imagine that the runtime could push a bit past the 60-minute mark. I saw someone pointing out that the last time they said a presentation would be 60 plus minutes, and it ended up being 85 minutes, so nearly an hour and a half. And yeah, if they're airing it in theaters, you're gonna go through all the effort, to get people here sitting down watching this thing, then I could see it, floating a good bit past that 60-minute mark. And of course, a very long runtime and a very special showing. Both of those things suggest that Sony has a whole lot of stuff to show us. So it's the summer presentation. It's gonna be pretty darn meaty. It's airing in select theaters. And then finally, Sony apparently has a countdown timer on their website. Now, this is not something I'm not super familiar with the patterns of this stuff, obviously more of a Nintendo guy, more of a Nintendo divinator, paying attention to the signs, reading the tea leaves. I don't know how often Sony does this, but I am seeing it pointed out as though it is not necessarily a normal thing for Sony to do, to have a countdown timer for the State of Play on the website. So regardless of what ends up actually happening in the State of Play, whether or not we end up being satisfied, happy with the presentation, happy with the games that are revealed, at the very, very least, we can see that Sony themselves are confident in the presentation. They themselves want to hype it up. Clearly, they are hyping it up as a very big deal. As always, we could end up being disappointed, but we might be looking at a pretty darn big presentation here. No, not even might. I will upgrade that might to may. There is a subtle distinction. You use might when it's a little bit more hypothetical, you're not really sure. You use may when it's no, it's genuinely a possibility. This may be a pretty big one. Now, of course, me personally, me in particular, I have to be very, very careful with my expectations because You know, of course, there's the overall disappointment with Sony this generation. They just really haven't put out a whole lot of games. Huge focus on live service games and all that stuff. But even beyond that, I personally am just not super into the actual games that they have been putting out. They have shifted their focus so much on like Marvel games. You know, like I don't care about superhero games, and that's just me. I recognize that that's just me. Spider-Man sold like absolute crazy. People love this stuff, and now everybody's really excited for Wolverine. I just could not possibly care less, and I would not be surprised if Wolverine takes up a pretty darn good amount of this presentation. Most of the properties that Sony has been focusing on, even when they are delivering games for those properties, I don't know. It's just, they've narrowed it down to like this little handful, and I'm just not super into them, you know? Like, Horizon's okay. I was kind of okay with that. I played the first one. I didn't really finish it. God of War, I'm sure is great. I'm sure is really good. I need to play the new ones, but I don't know. There's not a lot that they have been putting out that has really captured my attention. Yeah, partially their game output, partially my own tastes. It just doesn't really resonate with me anymore. So this could end up going down as a very big presentation, even a legendarily wondrous presentation, and I may still end up coming away just being like, yeah, it's really nothing for me. Especially now that we know Bloodborne remake is just never happening, because we apparently, word on the street is that Sony went to FromSoft about doing that, and they said no. So, ooh, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, I guess that's not happening. So that's not even something I can hope for. I don't know. I can't even exactly tell you what I am hoping for. I just think there was once a time when they put out so many games, they put out games so regularly, that just, there was always something new to play. There was always like some fun new thing. You know, there was a time when Uncharted was new, when Horizon was new, when this, new era of God of War was new. There was a time when we had more experimental titles and more, small games from smaller series and all that stuff. So yeah, just because the overall output has been kind of pared down so aggressively, I don't know, whatever. I've made my point. So even if they don't end up announcing a bunch of games that I personally care a lot about, I really do hope it ends up being a cool presentation. A lot of other people coming away very happy. And yeah, even if they don't announce games for me, I can still appreciate a good presentation. I watch all this stuff just because I think it's fun. If they still end up delivering a presentation that's just like well-paced, a lot of cool, interesting new games, maybe even some I want to look into, then like, there you go, good presentation. So we'll see. I think PlayStation fans certainly deserve a good presentation here and there. And assuming no unexpected mishaps befall me, I do plan on streaming it. So any of you listening to this, I do hope that you can come and watch the presentation with me. It is always fun to stream this kind of stuff. Always a real nice audience. Always a good time. Ooh, no. Project Robot. Fumito Ueda. That's what I want to see. That's it. That's the thing. that is the thing that I'm going to be looking out for right there. That's my game. I'm pretty sure it's going to be multi-platform, but it would certainly be fitting to have it in a PlayStation presentation. If you give me a full reveal of Project Robot, we're good. We are good, Sony. I'll forgive you for everything, and I'll sign up for a marathon season pass tomorrow.